Every human being enters this world carrying the same invisible treasure. Not intelligence, not money, not natural talent. Time. It is the one gift that ignores status, background, age, and ambition. Every sunrise quietly places another 24 hours into your account, whether you notice it or not. No one receives more. No one receives less. The billionaire cannot purchase an extra hour, no matter how vast their fortune. The genius cannot invent another minute, regardless of how brilliant their mind may be. The strongest person on earth cannot wrestle back a single second once it has slipped into the past. Time moves in only one direction, and it never pauses to wait for anyone. Yet somehow, while everyone begins each day with the same 24 hours, the outcomes could not be more different. Some people build extraordinary lives filled with purpose, achievement, and freedom. Others spend years drifting from one distraction to another, only to wake up wondering where their dreams, opportunities, and potential disappeared. Why? Because success has never been about having more time than everyone else. It has always been about mastering the time you already possess. The difference between an average life and an exceptional one is often hidden in the small choices made every single day, minute by minute, hour by hour, decision by decision. The people who shape history, build meaningful careers, create lasting relationships, and leave behind remarkable legacies are not given a larger clock. They simply learn to treat time as their most valuable possession rather than their most disposable resource. And today, you're about to discover a truth that most people never fully understand. A truth that quietly determines the direction of every life. Because the greatest reason people never truly own their future is that they never learn to own their time. There is a silent crisis unfolding across the world. It rarely makes headlines. It leaves no visible scars. Yet it quietly steals dreams, relationships, opportunities, and entire futures. Millions of people wake up every single morning convinced they simply don't have enough time. Not enough time to start the business they've always imagined. Not enough time to get into the best shape of their lives. Not enough time to learn valuable new skills. Not enough time to spend meaningful moments with the people they love. Not enough time to pursue the life they constantly dream about. They tell themselves they'll begin tomorrow, next week, next month, when life becomes less busy, when work slows down, when the timing finally feels right. But that day rarely comes. What if everything you've been told about your lack of time is built on a misunderstanding? What if the problem isn't your schedule at all? What if the greatest lie you've ever believed is that you simply need more hours? The truth is, most people don't have a time problem. They have an ownership problem. Their calendars are controlled by other people's expectations. Their attention is constantly hijacked by technology designed to keep them distracted. Their emotions are dictated by circumstances they never stop to question. Their decisions are shaped by routines they no longer consciously choose. Their days become automatic. Their weeks blur together. Their years disappear before they realize what happened. And eventually, their lives become filled with one thing they never intended to collect: regret. Not because they lacked intelligence, not because they lacked talent, not because they lacked opportunity, but because they surrendered ownership of the one resource they could never replace. The people who accomplish extraordinary things are not born with extra hours in the day. They wake up with the same 24 hours as everyone else. The difference is that they fiercely protect those hours. They understand that every distraction has a cost. Every unnecessary commitment steals part of their future. Every wasted hour is a piece of life they will never recover. They don't merely manage time. They defend it. Today, you're about to uncover the hidden psychology behind time itself. You'll discover why most people gradually lose control of it without ever noticing. You'll understand the invisible habits that quietly steal your days. And, more importantly, you'll learn how to reclaim every hour with purpose and intention. Because the moment you truly begin to own your time, you begin owning your future. Chapter 1. The greatest thief you never see. Imagine waking up every single morning to find 86,400 pounds deposited into your bank account. No matter who you are, no matter where you live, no matter what happened yesterday, the money arrives without fail. But there is one unbreakable rule. Whatever you fail to spend wisely disappears forever at midnight. You cannot save it for tomorrow. You cannot recover what was lost. You cannot negotiate for more. You cannot borrow from the future. And you cannot ask for a second chance once the clock strikes 12. Knowing that, would you waste it? Would you spend hours throwing it away on things that brought you no value? Would you hand large portions of it to strangers without thinking? Would you casually watch thousands disappear while telling yourself you'll be more careful tomorrow? Probably not. Because when money has a visible price, we instinctively protect it. We question every purchase. We calculate every expense. We become painfully aware of what we're gaining and what we're losing. Yet every single day, life quietly deposits something even more valuable into your existence. 86,400 seconds. A fortune that is worth infinitely more than 86,400 pounds. Because money can be earned again. A lost opportunity may return. Even broken possessions can be replaced. But a single second can never be recreated. Once it passes, it belongs to history forever. And despite knowing this, most people allow those precious seconds to disappear without ever noticing. Not because they're lazy, not because they lack intelligence, not because they don't have dreams worth pursuing, but because the greatest thief in life rarely looks like a thief. Time theft is almost never dramatic. It doesn't wear a mask. It doesn't force its way into your life. It doesn't announce its arrival. Instead, it disguises itself as harmless moments. Just 5 more minutes. I'll start tomorrow. One more episode. One more video. One more scroll. One quick look at my phone. One unnecessary argument. One pointless meeting. One distraction. One notification. One excuse. Each one feels insignificant on its own. Each one seems too small to matter. And that is exactly what makes them so dangerous. Because time is rarely stolen in giant chunks. It is taken a few minutes at a time. A few seconds here. A few moments there. Tiny pieces that seem invisible on their own but become enormous when added together over weeks, months, and years. The most dangerous thing about wasted time is that it feels completely harmless while it's happening. There is no alarm to warn you. No flashing light telling you that your future is quietly shrinking. No message appears across the sky announcing that another opportunity has just expired. No one walks into your room and says, "You'll never get this hour back." Instead, time leaves with perfect silence. One ordinary afternoon becomes another. One forgotten morning becomes another week. One wasted week becomes another month. One delayed goal becomes another year. And before you realize what's happened, the life you planned has become the life you postponed. One day you wake up and wonder how childhood became adulthood, how your 20s disappeared, how the dreams that once felt so close now seem so distant, how years passed faster than you ever imagined possible. The truth is, time never screams when it leaves. It doesn't demand your attention. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It simply slips through your fingers, one quiet moment at a time. It whispers, and that is why so few people ever hear it, until the silence has already cost them years they can never reclaim. Chapter 2. You don't control your day? Here's an uncomfortable truth. Most people believe they are making conscious decisions throughout the day. They aren't. More often than not, their habits are making those decisions for them. What feels like freedom is often nothing more than repetition. What feels like choice is usually routine operating on autopilot. The life you live today is largely the result of the patterns you repeated yesterday. Think about your morning. Did you consciously choose every action you took? Did you intentionally decide how you wanted your day to begin? Or did you simply replay the same sequence you followed hundreds of times before? The alarm rings. Almost instinctively, your hand reaches for your phone. Notifications, messages, emails, social media, videos, breaking news. Before you've even stepped out of bed, your attention has already been scattered in half a dozen different directions. Within minutes, someone else owns your focus. Someone else's message determines your mood. Someone else's opinion influences your thinking. Someone else's emergency becomes your priority. Someone else's content dictates where your attention goes. And before you've even had your first meaningful thought, your mind has already been occupied by the priorities of strangers. The day hasn't started on your terms. It started on theirs. What makes this so dangerous is that it feels completely normal. Almost everyone does it, so almost no one questions it. But every morning you surrender your attention before directing it yourself. You begin the day reacting instead of leading. And what begins as a single distracted morning slowly becomes a way of life. The pattern repeats itself. Every day, every week, every month, until weeks quietly become years. and years become routines, and routines become identities. Eventually, you no longer question the pattern because the pattern begins to feel like who you are. You tell yourself you're busy. You tell yourself you're trying your best. You tell yourself there's simply never enough time. But the truth is often much harder to accept. Most people don't lose their time all at once. They give it away a few moments at a time. One unnecessary scroll. One pointless meeting. One conversation that never needed to happen. One distraction disguised as entertainment. One interruption that steals more than just a few minutes. By themselves, they seem harmless. Together, they quietly consume entire years. People often say they don't have enough time, but in many cases, they've simply surrendered ownership of it. Every notification is a request for your attention. Every advertisement is competing for a place inside your mind. Every unnecessary commitment is someone asking you to exchange a piece of your life for something you never truly wanted. Every yes to the wrong thing is a hidden no to something that genuinely matters. Because time is never free. Every minute has a price. The question isn't whether your time is being spent. It always is. The real question is, who is deciding where it goes? Who is writing the story of your life, 1 hour at a time? You or everyone else? Chapter 3. Time is your true identity. Most people believe life is measured by birthdays. It isn't. Birthdays simply count how long you've existed. They do not measure how deeply you've lived. Life is measured by something far more valuable. Your attention. Because wherever your attention goes, your life inevitably follows. Attention is the invisible force that shapes every habit, every relationship, every achievement, and every version of yourself you will ever become. What you repeatedly focus on eventually becomes what you repeatedly experience. And what you repeatedly experience eventually becomes who you are. If you spend 5 years consumed by resentment, then resentment doesn't just become an emotion. It becomes your life. It colors the way you see people. It influences your decisions. It shapes your conversations. It steals your peace long after the people who hurt you have moved on. If you spend 10 years building meaningful work, then purpose becomes your life. Every hour invested compounds into knowledge. Every challenge strengthens your character. Every small improvement creates momentum that others mistake for talent or luck. If you spend every evening escaping reality, scrolling endlessly, watching one more episode, seeking constant distraction instead of meaningful progress, eventually, escape stops being something you do. It becomes the reality you live in. Because time has a remarkable power, it quietly transforms attention into identity. Not in a single dramatic moment, not overnight, but through thousands of small, repeated decisions that seem insignificant on their own. One choice becomes a habit becomes a routine becomes a lifestyle, and a lifestyle eventually becomes your identity. This is why the person you become tomorrow is already being shaped by the choices you make today. You don't become disciplined in a single morning. You become disciplined through thousands of ordinary mornings where you choose action instead of excuses. You don't become healthy through one perfect workout. You become healthy through hundreds of ordinary days when you decide that your future matters more than temporary comfort. You don't become successful because one lucky opportunity suddenly appears. You become successful because you consistently take ownership of ordinary hours that most people casually throw away. The extraordinary life is almost always built from ordinary moments used extraordinarily well. This is why protecting your time is not selfish. It is an act of self-respect. It is a declaration that your future deserves your attention more than every distraction demanding it today. Because every yes you give is secretly a no to something else. Every hour spent pleasing everyone is one less hour invested in becoming the person you're capable of becoming. Every unnecessary commitment accepted is another meaningful opportunity quietly declined. Every distraction welcomed is progress postponed. Every delay has a cost, even when that cost isn't immediately visible. Life is a series of constant exchanges. Time forces trade-offs, whether you recognize them or not. The question is never whether you're investing your time. You're always investing it. The real question is, what kind of person is your investment creating? Because in the end, your calendar becomes your character. Your attention becomes your identity. And the way you spend your time ultimately becomes the story of your life. Chapter 4. The Power of Saying No. One of the most powerful words in the English language contains only two letters. No. It is short. It is simple. Yet it has the power to shape the direction of an entire life. Most people think success comes from saying yes to more opportunities, more work, more invitations, more responsibilities, more commitments. But the truth is often the opposite. Successful people aren't successful because they say yes to everything. They're successful because they become masters of saying no to everything that doesn't deserve their time. No to meaningless meetings that produce nothing of value. No to toxic relationships that drain more energy than they give. No to endless scrolling disguised as relaxation. No to unnecessary drama that steals emotional peace. No to habits that quietly sabotage tomorrow while offering comfort today. No to distractions that promise instant pleasure but slowly rob you of long-term fulfillment. Every extraordinary life is built upon protected boundaries. Because boundaries are not walls designed to keep people out. They are filters that protect what matters most. Every time you say no to something that doesn't align with your purpose, you are saying yes to the future you're trying to create. And if you don't decide what deserves your time, someone else will. The world is full of people, companies, notifications, advertisements, and endless demands competing for your attention. Each one wants a small piece of your day. A few minutes here, an hour there. Individually, they seem insignificant. Collectively, they can consume an entire life. Many people struggle to say no because they fear disappointing others. They worry about being misunderstood. They fear appearing selfish. They don't want to let people down. But they often forget one uncomfortable truth. Every time you refuse to disappoint someone else, you may be disappointing your future self instead. Every unnecessary obligation you accept is time taken away from your health, your family, your dreams, your growth, your peace of mind. Your future self silently pays the price for every decision your present self avoids making. The cost of saying yes is rarely visible in the moment. It appears months later, years later, in the goals you never pursued, the books you never read, the business you never started, the relationships you never nurtured, the person you never became. Dreams rarely disappear overnight. They don't suddenly collapse in a single dramatic moment. Instead, they slowly suffocate beneath thousands of tiny compromises. One unnecessary hour today, another tomorrow, a weekend lost next month, a year gone before you even realize it. Each compromise feels too small to matter. But time doesn't measure your life in dramatic events. It measures it in ordinary moments repeated over and over again. This is why success is rarely stolen all at once. It doesn't vanish in one catastrophic decision. It quietly leaks away through small daily choices. One distraction, one excuse, one unnecessary commitment, one careless yes at a time. The people who build extraordinary lives understand something most people never fully realize. Every no protects a future yes. A yes to better health. A yes to meaningful work. A yes to deeper relationships. A yes to personal growth. A yes to becoming the person they were capable of being. Because every life is ultimately shaped not only by the opportunities you accept, but by the distractions you have the courage to decline. Chapter 5. Own the morning. Own the day. Every single day begins with a negotiation. Not with your boss. Not with your family. Not with the world around you. But with yourself. The moment your eyes open, an invisible conversation begins. Will you lead your mind? Or will your mind lead you? It sounds like a simple question. Yet the answer quietly determines the direction of your entire day. Because the way you begin your morning often becomes the way you live your life. Unfortunately, most people lose this negotiation before they've even had breakfast. They wake up reacting instead of leading, checking their phones before checking in with themselves, answering messages before answering their own priorities, scrolling through endless feeds, comparing their lives to carefully edited versions of everyone else's. Consuming information they never asked for, absorbing opinions they never needed. By the time they've finished breakfast, their attention has already been divided. Their focus has already been weakened. Their day has already been shaped by forces they never consciously chose. They think they're starting the day. In reality, they're simply responding to someone else's agenda. But extraordinary people approach the morning differently. They understand that the first moments after waking are among the most valuable hours they'll ever own. So they create before they consume. They think before they react. They choose before they follow. They decide what matters before the world decides for them. They don't allow notifications to become their morning routine. They don't let other people's urgency replace their own purpose. Instead, they deliberately invest their freshest energy into the things that move their lives forward. Because they know something most people overlook. The first hour of your day is worth far more than 60 minutes. It is a declaration, a message you send to your own mind. It tells your brain who is in charge. It establishes the standard for everything that follows. If you begin your day with intention, your mind learns to seek direction. If you begin your day with distraction, your mind learns to expect distraction. The first decision often shapes every decision that comes after it. If distraction wins the first battle, it usually wins the war. One distracted morning becomes another. One unfocused day becomes another week. Weeks become months. Months become years. And eventually, distraction no longer feels like a habit. It feels like your identity. That is why protecting your mornings is one of the greatest investments you can make. You don't need to wake up at an impossible hour. You don't need a perfect routine. You don't need to transform your life overnight. You simply need to protect the first part of your day from everything that tries to steal it. Even 30 minutes of focused intention can completely change the direction of an entire day. 30 minutes spent reading instead of scrolling, writing instead of reacting, exercising instead of procrastinating, reflecting instead of rushing, learning instead of consuming, creating instead of comparing. Those small actions may seem ordinary, but repeated every morning, they become extraordinary. Because greatness is rarely built through dramatic breakthroughs. It is built through quiet routines repeated with consistency. Every meaningful morning is a vote for the person you want to become. Every intentional sunrise strengthens your discipline. Every protected hour compounds into a stronger mind, a clearer purpose, and a more meaningful life. Invest in yourself before investing in everyone else. Fill your own mind before allowing the world to fill it for you. Protect your attention before others compete for it. Because your future isn't built at the end of the day. It is built in the quiet moments long before the world begins demanding your attention. Chapter 6. The Compound Effect of Time. Imagine becoming just 1% better every single day. Not 10%. Not overnight. Not through some dramatic breakthrough that completely transforms your life in a single moment. Just one small improvement. One page read. One workout completed. One skill practiced. One healthy meal chosen. One difficult conversation finally held instead of avoided. One distraction resisted. One promise kept to yourself. By themselves, these actions appear almost insignificant. They don't attract applause. They don't make headlines. They don't instantly change your life. Most people overlook them because they seem too small to matter. And that is precisely why so many people underestimate their power. Because time has a remarkable ability. It multiplies consistency. Small actions repeated long enough produce results that seem impossible to those who only focus on dramatic change. Just as compound interest quietly transforms small amounts of money into great wealth, repeated actions quietly transform ordinary people into extraordinary individuals. Not because they are more talented, not because they are luckier, but because they consistently do what others repeatedly postpone. Every choice you make is like casting a vote. One vote doesn't decide an election, but thousands of votes do. In the same way, one productive day won't define your future. Neither will one lazy afternoon. What shapes your life is the direction of your repeated choices. Day after day, week after week, year after year. The strongest oak tree in the forest once existed as an unnoticed seed buried beneath the ground. For years, no one admired it. No one celebrated its growth. Its progress was almost invisible. Yet beneath the surface, it was quietly building roots strong enough to support a giant. The greatest companies in history didn't begin as global empires. They began with ordinary decisions made by ordinary people who refused to quit. One customer, one improvement, one solution, one day at a time. Masterpieces weren't painted in a single brushstroke. They were created through thousands of careful movements, each one building upon the last. Great books weren't written in a single sitting. They were built one sentence at a time. Extraordinary athletes weren't made by one perfect workout. They were shaped through years of ordinary training that almost nobody ever saw. That is the nature of progress. No one witnesses the invisible accumulation. People rarely notice the countless mornings you wake up early, the quiet evenings you choose learning over distraction, The difficult decisions you make when no one is watching. They only notice the extraordinary result. They call it talent. They call it luck. They call you gifted. But they never saw the thousands of invisible choices that made the outcome inevitable. This is why patience is one of the most powerful qualities you can develop. Because meaningful success rarely arrives instantly. It grows quietly beneath the surface long before anyone else can see it. The world celebrates the harvest. But few people appreciate the seasons of planting, watering, waiting, and believing. Time always rewards consistency, even when progress feels slow, even when motivation disappears, even when no one applauds your effort. Every page you read adds another layer of knowledge. Every workout strengthens not only your body, but your discipline. Every focused hour sharpens your mind. Every distraction you resist strengthens your ability to choose purpose over impulse. Nothing is ever wasted. The clock is always watching. Every hour you invest compounds into the person you are becoming. Every decision leaves a mark. Every habit builds another brick in the foundation of your future. And while the results may remain invisible for a while, time never forgets your investments. It quietly returns them, with interest, to those who remain consistent long enough to receive the reward. Chapter 7. The moment everything changes. One day, without warning, you will realize something that changes the way you see your entire life. You were never promised unlimited tomorrows. For most of our lives, we quietly assume there will always be another chance. Another Monday. Another new year. Another opportunity to begin. Another conversation to have. Another dream to pursue. Another moment to become the person we've always imagined. That belief feels comforting, but it is also dangerously deceptive. Because the perfect time never arrives. There is always another excuse. Another responsibility. Another reason to wait. Another fear convincing you that tomorrow will somehow be easier than today. But tomorrow has a habit of staying just out of reach. It keeps moving forward with you. And before you realize it, someday quietly becomes never. One postponed decision becomes another. One delayed goal becomes another year. One missed opportunity becomes a lifetime of wondering what might have been. Until suddenly, the opportunities are gone. The door you meant to walk through has already closed. The people you thought would always be there have changed. Some have moved on. Some have grown apart. Some are no longer here. Your health is different. The energy you once took for granted has faded. The dream that once felt so close now seems distant. Not because you lacked intelligence. Not because you lacked talent. Not because you weren't capable. But because time continued moving while you continued hesitating. Life never pauses while we make up our minds. The clock never waits for certainty. Every second moves forward whether we are ready or not. That is the nature of time. It rewards action. It ignores intention. It does not measure what you hope to do. It measures what you actually did. This isn't meant to frighten you. It isn't a message of hopelessness. It is a wake-up call. Because awareness is where transformation begins. The moment you truly understand that your time is finite, you begin treating it as the priceless gift it has always been. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop postponing important conversations. You stop allowing fear to make decisions that belong to courage. You stop living as though life has endless chapters remaining. Because the greatest advantage you possess has never been your age, or your background, or your education, or your circumstances. It is today, not yesterday, which can never be changed. Not tomorrow, which has never been guaranteed. Today, this hour, this breath, this moment, right now, you possess something more valuable than certainty. You possess a choice. You cannot control how much time remains. No one can. But you can control what this moment becomes. You can choose to begin. You can choose to take the first step. You can choose to reclaim ownership of your attention, your decisions, and your future. And that is real power. Because the moment you stop waiting for a better time is the moment your life finally begins to change. Your life is not measured by the number of years you live. It is measured by the moments you choose to embrace. Because life is never experienced all at once. It unfolds one moment at a time. One decision, one conversation, one sunrise, one quiet choice that seems insignificant today but becomes unforgettable tomorrow. Those moments gradually become your habits. The things you repeatedly choose stop being isolated actions. They become patterns. Patterns that shape the way you think, the way you speak, the way you respond to challenges, the way you treat yourself, and the way you build your future. Over time, Those habits become your character. Character is not something you're born with. It is something you quietly build through thousands of ordinary decisions that almost no one else ever notices. It is built when you choose discipline over comfort, purpose over distraction, growth over excuses, courage over fear, responsibility over blame, integrity over convenience. And eventually, your character becomes your destiny, not through luck, not through chance, but because the person you become determines the life you create. Every second you protect is another brick carefully placed into the future you're building. Every focused hour strengthens the foundation beneath your dreams. Every promise you keep to yourself reinforces the belief that you are someone who follows through. Every difficult decision you make today makes tomorrow's challenges a little easier to face. Likewise, every distraction you reject is another step toward becoming the person you've always imagined. Every unnecessary scroll you resist creates space for meaningful progress. Every excuse you refuse weakens the grip of procrastination. Every moment you choose creation over consumption moves you closer to the life you've always wanted. Never underestimate the power of a single intentional decision, because extraordinary lives are not built through extraordinary moments alone. They are built through ordinary moments repeated with extraordinary consistency. So, own your mornings before the world claims them. Own your attention before distractions steal it. Own your thoughts before negativity shapes them. Own your choices before habit makes them for you. Own your hours before someone else decides how they should be spent. Protect your energy. Protect your focus. Protect your purpose. Because these are the resources from which every meaningful life is created. And eventually, if you continue making those small, intentional decisions day after day, you won't simply own your schedule. You will own your life. You'll wake each morning with direction instead of confusion, with purpose instead of pressure, with intention instead of impulse. And you'll discover a truth that too many people realize only when it's too late. In the end, time never truly belonged to anyone. It passed through every pair of hands equally. But its greatest rewards belonged to those who recognized its value, honored its limits, and had the courage to use it wisely. So don't wait for the perfect day. Don't wait for more motivation. Don't wait for permission. Your future is not being built someday. It is being built now. One choice, 1 hour, 1 moment at a time. If this message reminded you of the value hidden inside every single day, then don't let it end here. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're ready to take ownership of your time, your mind, and your future, subscribe to the Cipher Phantom, where we uncover the timeless ideas, hidden psychology, and powerful principles that help ordinary people build extraordinary lives. Remember, the clock is always moving. The only question is whether you're moving with it. If this message changed the way you see time, don't let it become another video you forget tomorrow. Pause for 1 minute after this ends. Ask yourself one question. Who has been owning my time? And what will I do differently today? If you enjoyed this journey into the hidden psychology of time, subscribe to the Cipher Phantom and join a community dedicated to mastering the mind, reclaiming purpose, and unlocking the extraordinary life hidden inside ordinary days. Remember, the clock is always moving. The only question is, are you moving with it?